title of this video is pretty straightforward. EA making a new Medal of Honor game. Now, I mean, a lot of people will be looking at this thinking, well, where's your source, where's your proof? But I actually have quite a bit of proof. It's actually a link, and within the link itself, the head of Ripple Effect Studios, who were Dice LA, who were Danger Clues, who were EA Los Angeles, who were DreamWorks Interactive, there's a huge story to it. I'm actually going to go into that bit of detail in this video, but pretty much I'll go over what this link says in this article. So for anyone who doesn't actually know, Vince Zampella, who's head of Respawn Entertainment and who's now overseeing Ripple Effect Studios' upcoming game, what happened is in 2020, so early 2020, he actually released a statement and said that he believes that the Ripple Effect Studio, this was back whenever they hadn't actually announced their new name, this is back whenever they were Dice LA, and he was just made head of pretty much recruitment, we'll call it at this point. Basically what he says is that their next game will more than likely be a shooter running on the Frostbite engine. Now this is where a bit of the history comes into it, because before Ripple Effect Studios were Dice LA, they actually were known as Danger Clues Games, the team who made pretty much all the Medal of Honor games. Before they were Danger Clues Games, they were actually EA Los Angeles, who made probably the most popular games in the series: Medal of Honor Frontline, Medal of Honor Rising Sun, Medal of Honor Pacific Assault, European Assault, and Medal of Honor Vanguard. Yeah, people will be looking at me going, Vanguard? Medal of Honor had Vanguard first, that's all I'm going to say. So, I've actually left the article in the description below if you guys want to take a look at it yourself. But pretty much, Vince Zampella more or less confirms that their game is going to be a shooter, and it's going to be running on the Frostbite engine. Now, and being that it was actually announced in 2020, another game that actually came out in 2020, last December, funny enough, at the time of recording this, was actually Medal of Honor Above and Beyond. Now, a lot of people look at that and go, well, does Respawn Entertainment now have the license, or they the company that now makes the Medal of Honor games? Yes and no, and here's what I mean by that. Before Medal of Honor Above and Beyond was actually going to be a VR exclusive, it was actually touted to be a widespread release. So when I say widespread, what I generally mean is PC and console. It was actually going to be a release for those until they actually met with Facebook and discussed the potential of Oculus. And that leads me to think that, well, if they were going to do it, you know, as a standalone, as a big release, clearly then the idea hasn't left. Now, a lot of people will be looking at Medal of Honor Above and Beyond and say, like, well, the game didn't actually do that well. Would EA really want to drive in the Medal of Honor again? And realistically, I actually think they would, and here's why. Despite Medal of Honor Above and Beyond's critical reception, it still won awards, it still did rather well. In December, it was actually one of Steam's best-selling games, so it was actually a decent seller. I don't think it touched anywhere near what you'd expect the AAA game to do, but when you look into it, it was a VR exclusive game, and although a lot of people have VR, PC and console is still the majority of games be played on those rather than a VR exclusive. So I never understood why they went VR, but when you look at it and you're thinking to yourself, maybe it was to get the name out there, maybe it was to let people know, yeah, this franchise, it still exists, it's still a thing. So that's my own take on it. That's why I think that they've decided to release a VR game, just so they can throw the name out there pretty much and just let people know the franchise isn't exactly dead. So like I was saying, the franchise isn't exactly dead. Now if we look into the history of it, Medal of Honor sort of had a bit of a strange development history. Okay, so at the beginning, Medal of Honor was actually developed by DreamWorks Interactive, who had their own standalone studio. They didn't have the backing of Electronic Arts or Activision or anyone like that. They were actually their own studio, so they were under obviously DreamWorks. They released the first game in 1999, simply titled Medal of Honor. Now, after Medal of Honor Underground, I do believe, they brought the studio in-house, so EA purchased DreamWorks Interactive, and then that's how EA got involved with the franchise. So the first game to actually be under the EA banner was actually 2002's Medal of Honor Allied Assault. Now, Medal of Honor Allied Assault is actually a strange game because when it came out within the same year, Medal of Honor Frontline was released. Now, both these games are very similar in that they both have the D-Day landing, so to do. But other than that, that's pretty much where the similarities end. And a lot of people actually thought it was kind of strange why they would release two different games that felt very different at the same time. For the most part, a lot of people do say, however, that both games were actually received relatively well, and a lot of people do like both games. Obviously, Medal of Honor Frontline was a PS2 and Xbox original, so it was in that it had no real online feature whatsoever. It was just pretty much a game that was made for story compatibility and to be able to be played as a story basis. Whereas Medal of Honor Allied Assault had the single player aspect and single player story, but it also carried over a really, really enjoyable multiplayer. Now, a lot of people actually do look at this game and think that, a lot of people do believe that this game is sort of a Call of Duty prototype, and that the developers of Medal of Honor Allied Assault 2015 Inc. went on to develop Call of Duty 1 and Call of Duty 2 and then Modern Warfare 1 and Modern Warfare 2, which is actually really interesting, so it is when you think about it. Sort of a weird circle. So they went on, they developed the Call of Duty franchise as Infinity Ward, and Medal of Honor was pretty much just solely developed at that point by EA Los Angeles. So Medal of Honor Rising Sun followed Medal of Honor Frontline, then we had European Assault, Medal of Honor Vanguard. Now what's really interesting about this is that the first Medal of Honor games to actually be released on, at the time, the new platform, the Xbox 360 and the PS3, was actually Medal of Honor Airborne. Now at the same time, Medal of Honor Airborne was actually being developed at the same time as Medal of Honor European Assault or Vanguard. I'm not exactly too sure which one it was, but it was being developed alongside one of these games. Similar to how Medal of Honor Allied Assault was developed alongside Medal of Honor Frontline. The only difference is that both studios were developing their own games. That was 2015 Inc. and EA Los Angeles were both two different studios developing the games at the one time. Whereas Medal of Honor Airborne was solely developed by EA Los Angeles as well as Medal of Honor Vanguard or European Assault. Again, I'll get the names up proper, I'm sorry about this guys. But both those games were developed at the same time by the same studio, which is why if you play the two side by side, you can pretty much feel a similarity, but also notice the difference, obviously, with power and resources that went into it. So fast forward a bit, after Medal of Honor Airborne didn't hit the sales expectations that EA wanted, EA then released a year later Battlefield Bad Company, which soared expectations. This was actually a console exclusive, and I think the reason for this was to give people who were fans of the Medal of Honor franchise, you know, well, here's something that will fill the gap pretty much. And so Battlefield Bad Company 1 was released pretty much as a console exclusive, soared sales expectations, got great reviews, and EA at that point thought themselves, we can do something here. So fast forward in 2 years, in 2010, EA rebrands Medal of Honor simply as Medal of Honor 2010, or some people refer to it as Operation Anaconda. It's loosely based off it. That game did really well in terms of sales, but for the most part, a lot of people felt that it was really watered down and it really doesn't feel as though it's a high budget game. Now it was high budget, a lot of resources went into it, but it was also very rushed. The campaign is a lot of fun, but the multiplayer was heavily rushed, and if you play Battlefield Bad Company 2 and you play Medal of Honor 2010, you'll notice what I mean when you link up the multiplayers. They're very similar, feel the same. But another interesting feature about this game was that the campaign was developed using the Unreal Engine. The multiplayer was pretty much DICE Frostbite engine at the time, and the games are very, very different in terms of how they feel. Now, it's the one game, but it feels like two different games, if that makes any sense. So, that was Medal of Honor 2010, done really well. Fast forward to Medal of Honor Warfighter, which is the background gameplay you've seen here, a mix up of it. That game bombed. I'm not exaggerating, that game actually bombed in terms of sales and critical reviews. For the most part, the critics just said the game didn't run well, which is really interesting when you consider the problems Battlefield 2042 is having at the minute. The game honestly just doesn't, well, didn't, I should say, doesn't, I'm getting confused, doesn't feel like a proper game that it was meant to be released, and EA did rush it out just to get the sales market going. The game was flagged heavily because it didn't work, didn't get the resources, and EA pretty much abandoned it in January 2013, so no update has ever came since that time. So, fast forward into 2020, EA released Medal of Honor Above and Beyond. Medal of Honor Above and Beyond was actually, it's not a terrible game. It's a better game statistically than Warfighter, but a worse game than Medal of Honor 2010, so it's a middle of the mark game. But one of the things that Medal of Honor Above and Beyond did with the Medal of Honor franchise should always do is it had a compelling story, and that the story actually won an award. There's a little in-game movie called Colette, I'm not exactly too sure how to pronounce the name, but this game pretty much did exactly what Medal of Honor was supposed to do throughout all the years, and that was tell a compelling story about the people who survived the war, the people who volunteered in the war, and that was always what Steven Spielberg intended the series to be, a war storytelling game effectively. So we've pretty much got the history of the Medal of Honor series, and we're pretty much on the stage now. We're just going to talk about what could come, what could be next. So like I say, in the earlier statement, Vince Zampella said it's more than likely going to be a shooter running off the Frostbite engine. I'm not too happy about it running off the Frostbite engine, and I'll say this, and this is why. Medal of Honor Warfighter came out and it was running off the Frostbite engine, and one of the biggest complaints a lot of people had was that it just looked a lot like Battlefield. It really did look a lot like Battlefield in this sense, and that was actually one of the reasons why a lot of people didn't actually end up buying it, is because they said, well, what would be the point of buying a game that's pretty much just a watered down version of Battlefield, which effectively, as much as I like Warfighter, it is a much more slower, watered down version of Battlefield 3 when you really think about it, because Battlefield 3 and Warfighter, similarities, the Frostbite engine, graphics, I mean, for some reason Battlefield actually looks a bit better, so for some reason I'm not too sure. So I would actually prefer them to go in their own direction, use their own engine. But in saying that, I mean, EA, if you're partnered with EA, part of the agreement is that you run the Frostbite engine. But I mean, they could throw a couple of tweaks in here and there to make it look different, I suppose. But you know what? I mean, if we're getting Medal of Honor game, I shouldn't really complain. Where would I suggest that they should probably go in this game? If I'm being totally honest, I would take a direction of a Vietnam style game, Vietnam/Korean War. Mainly because the only game that I can really remember really touching on this is obviously the expansion for Bad Company 2. But at the same time, we had the likes of Black Ops 1, which was heavy Vietnam themed, so it was. And that actually came out at the same time as Medal of Honor 2010. Medal of Honor 2010's issue was, and this is the same as Warfighter, they were playing catch up in the modern era. They were trying to, get a modern era audience to play them. The problem was, is that the modern era was filled with Battlefield, Bad Company 2, Battlefield 3, Modern Warfare 1 and 2, and even 3 at the same time. So to get into that market was incredibly difficult. Whereas if they maybe take a similar approach to going back in time, it could actually really work out in a sense. Like, when you look about it, no game currently right now is even touching Vietnam for some reason. And the good thing about Vietnam is that you can really play with it. There's a lot of sort of modernized weapons that you can still throw into your game. There's a lot of good scenery you could play with, especially with the Frostbite engine. And on top of it, it's an era that Medal of Honor's never been to Vietnam. And being that Medal of Honor's a game that really likes to tell the story, is that there's a lot of really dark cinematic stuff you can do with the Vietnam theme. Whereas if you go for a modern day sort of setting, even though there's a lot of stories and books about the modern day setting, there's really nothing you can really dive into and say, well, we'll do that, because odds are another studio did touch on that. Whereas if you go Vietnam, there's so much there, and a lot of games actually haven't been made with Vietnam theme. So realistically, Vietnam is probably an era that I think that they could really touch on quite well and probably really exceed and get a good audience. Because if you bring out, let's say for instance they do a modern day setting game, well, what's coming out next year is Modern Warfare 2, Roman numerals 2, we'll have to make that clear. Going to have to compete against that, and if you bring out, no offence to as much as I like Medal of Honor and want to see it come back, if you bring that game out and have it competing against Call of Duty, the problem is that Call of Duty will eat that market, especially because Medal of Honor, as much as it's a big IP, it hasn't had a widespread console or PC release since 2012, so you have to play it safe and not compete in that market, which is why I think if you can bring out a game that looks different enough but also modernize it in a sense, because a lot of people, whenever Call of Duty Vanguard was announced, a lot of people were like, another World War II game, really? A lot of people didn't actually want the World War II game, whereas if you do something sort of in between, like a modern and World Wars, so like I say, Vietnam/Korean War, you have a market there to play with, and you can actually do so much that you really probably couldn't have done with World War II, and obviously you can pull it back a bit, as compared to what the other guys are doing. So especially, and even at that, Battlefield's dropping the campaign now, so Medal of Honor throughout its history has always been the game when it comes to storytelling, it's always exceeded that in EA's catalogue. Like, no offense to Battlefield or anything, but when it comes to the franchise's campaigns, they're very forgettable. Whereas a lot of people will argue, well, Medal of Honor Frontline, Medal of Honor Rising Sun, they all had great campaigns, so they did. So realistically, it's a market that EA could really push and push well if they're smart. But that's just my own personal thoughts and beliefs if they are making a new Medal of Honor game. Again, the studio that's behind this potential new release, Ripple Effect, they have ties to Medal of Honor. Vince Zampella, who worked in 2015 Inc. and made Medal of Honor Allied Assault, he has ties to the franchise with us, so all that makes a lot of sense. And if you ask me, I think it just does point to Medal of Honor being released, maybe not in 2022, but maybe in 2023. If it is 2022, happy days. It'll be 2 years since the release of the latest game, Above and Beyond. So who knows what we're going to get, but that's my own personal thoughts. I've been encouraged, you've been new. If you guys like this video, by all accounts, please leave a like. If you didn't like it, obviously a dislike. Tell me what you guys think they should do if they are going to make a new Medal of Honor game. And yeah, if you're new around here, subscribe. I do a lot of different stuff, a lot of Medal of Honor stuff. So yeah, I've been encouraged, you have a nice day, guys. Thanks for checking out the video. Peace.